Welcome to yet another edition of Within WordPress, the podcast you love listening to because it shows you who is inside this wonderful world of WordPress. With me today is Danil. Hi, welcome.
Remkus, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. My first question is always, please introduce yourself. Who are you? Where do you work? And what is your connection with WordPress?
It's an interesting question, actually. You'll understand why. Well, my name is Danil, and I'm from Lithuania, actually. And I work in Omnisend. And this is the simple stuff. But how the way to place it to WordPress is more complicated. Well, actually, I'm a happy father of a 13 years old, and my wife is actually developing on WordPress.
Okay.
So
that's an interesting connection.
Related to Omnisend, actually.
Yeah.
I myself am not developing on WordPress. I am an ex-developer.
Okay.
Nowadays, I'm mostly a manager. We talk obviously at home a lot, and it's interesting to see what the challenges she sometimes has.
Yeah.
What are the solutions? Yeah. That being said, from work perspective, obviously, Omnisend, well, we have a product. We've been mostly developing it in another ecosystem with some new WordPress.
Yeah.
But that being said, we're trying to be meaningful here, provide and create value. That's why I'm here today.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we're talking. So this is probably the most interesting, what do you do with WordPress? And then the answer. It'd be like if my wife was on the podcast and go, yeah, I work with WordPress, but you really want to talk to my husband because he has the intel and the details. So Omnisend, not a lot of people know this just yet, I think. I think you said that correctly. Do tell, what does the company do? Are you all based in Lithuania?
No, we are actually based both in Lithuania and United States.
Okay.
So basically, I believe it's quite common thing. Here in Lithuania, we have basically development. Go-to-market is majority in United States. I think that's quite regular thing, at least here locally.
Yeah.
Many firms do that. That being said, we are different in some cases. We bootstrap, even though we are in American market, well, in global market actually, but we don't have investors and we don't need to bend to all those.
I think that's a good position to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and yeah, we are somewhat new in WordPress, that's for sure. We are not new in the market. Been here for 10 years.
Saw that, yeah.
In WordPress, yeah, rather new, let's say. So,
that's the amount of time that you've been here, but what I've seen so far is Omnisend being quite active in the WordPress project itself, inside WordCamp Europe, for instance, organization. You purposely have chosen to be on a path of contributing or giving back, not just here's a solution for WordPress, WooCommerce specifically. Well, we'll dive in a little deeper on what your solution actually does, and specifically what your role is. But what I like about, which was the intriguing thing for me, like, okay, this is an interesting conversation. You're a company that is relatively new to the WordPress world, relatively, and you've seen the value of contributing back, right? So there's plenty of companies that have WordPress products, but it's just here it is, and giving back part is like, okay, maybe minimal, if at all. You've clearly chosen a different route, and I'm kind of curious about that. What can you share about that?
Well, yeah, it's maybe not that straightforward, but there are places where it's just business.
Yeah.
and there are places where you don't behave like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not okay. And we see, like, if you want to play in, well, let's say Shopify ecosystem,
Yeah.
there it's business only. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's
Very different.
and so on, right? In WordPress, we don't feel it that way. It's really a lot about community. The whole, as far as we understand, the whole thing is highly decentralized and community driven. So it's just not appropriate way to behave, right? And you didn't behave in appropriate way. So this is what we're trying.
Well, I think it shows. It's like I said, it's one of the things where I always find it interesting to see new companies to the WordPress ecosphere, that they go like, okay, so let me look around and see how this works, and then indeed, like you said, act accordingly. I think the examples of companies not doing that are far greater than the examples that are doing that. So for that, I applaud you. So let's hear a little bit more about Omnisend. So it's located both in the United States and Lithuania. What is your role, and what does it actually do? Because I'm aware of the service as a thing, but I like how you solve things specifically. So let's hear a little bit about that.
So my specific role is basically engineering manager. Okay, so we are, if stepping a bit backwards, I'm absolutely not known in WordPress world, it's fair to say. But in Lithuanian Agile world, I'm kind of well known.
Okay.
And this is how I appear.
This is sounding like I'm kind of famous, but you don't know.
Oh, I mean, maybe not famous, but contributing to the community.
Sure.
Okay, so, we have a community, and this is why I know that contribution to community is appreciated, because I've been fostering agile community here in this a lot and contributing to that. So, and this is how naturally I appeared in Omnisend, and how it is to some extent connects well to WordPress in my view. Omnisend is doing a lot of things in very product-oriented way. It's not just agile processes and stuff, or Kumbaya Agile, where we love people, hang together and all of that, but it's a lot of emphasis actually on product and how to make great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, and it's very hard.
What is?
It's very hard. I mean, proper product management is very hard.
Yeah.
And that's why we had a lot of efforts on building product, but not much effort before on joining WordPress. WordPress has its additional challenges. It's very flexible, right?
Maybe a little bit too much.
Maybe a little bit too much. I mean, it's a strength of WordPress, actually.
Yeah.
It's very appreciated for that. But it doesn't make it easy to integrate with this ecosystem. It requires just a little bit more effort, right?
Yeah. I can see that.
And 6 years ago, when we were trying to do that, it was a little bit too challenging for us in a sense. We still need to work a lot on the product, right? And then you need to solve those technical challenges as well. So we had to pick. Well, when you're bootstrapped, you don't have a lot of money to waste. You need to prioritize.
I'm very well aware of this. Yes.
Thank you. Yes. And we focused on the product in one specific ecosystem, and at that point it wasn't WordPress.
Yeah.
So we have developed marketing automation platform for people who sell online. Right. So this is how we position ourselves, basically. Right. And our target audience is actually small and medium business.
Okay.
Which I believe very well and goes with WordPress.
It does.
big companies, they usually have custom build site, right? Usually big thing. I'm not sure how usual it is to base it on WordPress.
More than you would know, actually. So a few podcasts back, there have been on a few folks that work a lot with so all the way up to full enterprise, like proper enterprise, meaning it's there's a layer of people you have to get through to even get to the decision making unit. But also from a high technical standpoint, there are still more and more larger businesses choosing for WordPress. I think it's mostly having to do with finding an agency that understands scaling, as well as you have an understanding of what it is that you actually want, and usually that is so WordPress probably started with small companies, sort of bootstrapped in a way as well. And then as it grew, you also saw that over the years, and I would say for the last, let me say, 6-7 years, more and more mature sites have been entering into WordPress and staying with WordPress as well. So,
what would you say? Is it more of exception or the rule today?
So I think, good question. I think it depends on the perspective. There are agencies out there, and agencies like Crowd Favorite, Human Made, XWP, Inside from Germany. They have a very strong focus on the larger type clients, right? So whether that's small, the larger small businesses, all the way up to like proper full-on enterprise. Fortune 500 companies, that sort of stuff. So they will say, look, there's a lot of high-end market inside of the market of WordPress, and we're servicing them. And so for them, it's a lot. Having said that, there are also plenty of, I think, in the vast majority, maybe this is the Pareto principle again, like 80% of the sites are what you just said, but 20% is so large that it makes up so much more, where it relatively looks like there's way more of it. I think it's a little bit a case of that. As much as I don't think I can find a better answer than that. So my perspective is that WordPress most certainly is very active in the small business, smaller sites. It's easy, right? It's free. Your service caters mostly to WooCommerce, right? Is it also to be used without WooCommerce, Omnisend, and just WordPress?
As of today, not yet.
Yeah. Okay. So
So
then WooCommerce is a subsection of WordPress users, but you can see the same thing happening in WooCommerce, right? So the first versions of WooCommerce were just stores. Just anybody who wanted a store, they could have one. And as WooCommerce starts maturing, clients start maturing. So there are very large sites on WooCommerce now, sites that possibly traditionally would have moved off to either Magento or Shopify. And that is less and less a necessity, I would say. Long answer, but I think that's pretty much at least how I see it.
All right. Well, from our perspective, we are aiming at those 80%.
Yeah, I figured. Yeah.
Because, again, getting back to that bootstrap thingy, you really want to focus.
Yeah.
And, we have competitors with many more people working, but they have investors and so on. And yeah, they are looking broader. I'm happy for them. They can do that. We like to be still self-funded. That also brings us some competitive edge.
Yeah, for sure.
And fast. But of course, it has limitations as well. We cannot look everywhere we would like to. And we are focusing on our client, and that being small and medium businesses.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you say you want to focus not everywhere, meaning you're focusing particularly on small business. But in
e-commerce
e-commerce,
and meeting.
yeah, okay. Yeah, so and then and is then the focus, that is your main focus, and then wherever they are, you are, meaning WooCommerce, Shopify, possibly Magento.
We would like to be, again, possibilities, and our wishes not always overlap. So yes, definitely we are present on Shopify, BigCommerce as well.
Yeah.
There are custom integrations. Magento, to some extent, not that much. But we would definitely like to be more present on WooCommerce.
Okay.
I mean, we are there, but there is always a way of doing it.
So does that mean the product as you have it, with the feature set that is available, has a limited representation in WooCommerce at the moment, or are you referencing the market penetration that you have, the visibility?
It's more about visibility side. Really. Okay. Feature set, that's the difference between broad look at the solution and narrow view at the solution. From our perspective, we believe that we add core features which are needed, and as a result, we maintain proper pricing.
Yeah.
Right. It's not too low, but it's not at the highest end as well. Right. Somewhere in the middle. Of course, if we would add more features, it's not for free. You need to develop, you need to maintain it. But then our price will have to be higher.
Yeah.
We don't want that. We want to be some in the middle. That's a proper place. Because we believe that is appropriate for SMB, small and medium businesses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we would like to go for corporate, that would be different. But we're not aiming for
that. That's a very different market.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about those features, because you do text marketing for e-commerce. I can sort of imagine what that means. You do whole, I think if I remember correctly, you do push notifications as well, customer matching, stuff like that. So tell us a little bit more about the product itself, because if you are new to the WooCommerce world, now is a good time to tell them what you are about.
All right.
Also for my curiosity, but two birds, one stone. There we go.
Sure. I would like to do it from a little bit different perspective, if you mean.
Yeah, sure.
We have been in the selling online business for a long while now. So we realize pretty well that there are some challenges the new business have, typically e-shop business have. And I would like to go not through like features, but for problems that we're trying to.
Even better.
Then the features will go after that, right? So basically, when you start a new e-shop, you need to consider at least 3 things when you want to communicate to your clients, shoppers.
Yeah.
Well, first, you do need to communicate to your shoppers. I mean, if you believe you don't, our numbers show you put yourself into disadvantage. Okay. Then it's just a question how easy it is for you to do, how straightforward it is to do.
Yeah.
And we have learned that there are 3 things that we highly recommend to focus on. First, obviously, you need to collect contacts of your audience, right? So you need those contacts of shoppers if you want to communicate to them. It's not possible otherwise. I mean, it's straightforward when you think about it, but actually it's not obvious for newly established businesses, okay? I have an example, just a young mom which is selling soap.
Yeah.
And I mean, she really doesn't know what does it mean sell online. What? And that's fair. That's okay.
I guess we're all having to learn it somewhere at some point. Yeah.
Absolutely. So please, you do need to communicate to your clients. Okay, for that you need contact. Okay, that's one.
Yeah.
So of course, Omnisend has forms functionality that allows you to communicate. Hey, would you like to leave your contact here? You might get a discount or added value. It really depends on you how you place, what you place for added value. It might not only be a discount, but information. Really depends on what you're selling.
Yeah, but we've all seen those pop-ups. Yeah,
Absolutely, they are sometimes annoying, but you have a lot of control here, a lot of templates as well. So no one wants irrelevant pop-up.
no, that is the death of the internet as we know it.
Absolutely. So that's one, collect context.
Yeah.
Second, you want the context to appreciate that you have collected, that you have an email now, or maybe even a phone number. Okay? So typically we see that shoppers are more engaged if you send some sort of welcome message to them. Okay?
Okay.
Typically with that welcome message, you want already to provide some value to them.
And would that be such a thing as a pop-up, or what is a welcome message?
That would be typically an email. And in email, again, depending on what you're selling, if it's just stuff, any online shop, typically that would be some sort of a discount.
Right.
One-time discount, maybe a limited time discount.
10% off on your first purchase, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's it. On the other hand, if you're a specialty shop, you might provide some sort of interesting information. For instance, if I'm a coffee shop, maybe I'm selling stuff for enthusiasts, right?
Yeah.
So in that case, maybe some interesting PDF may be appropriate, right? You get some added value, right?
Yeah.
So that engages you with your potential shoppers. So that's second thing, welcome. Again, Omnisend invested a lot in data-driven decisions. So this is not just our opinion, this is what we see from data.
Yeah.
This is a benefit of having a lot of shops and seeing how they behave differently and what are the results.
So your product is I'm assuming here, but it sounds like your product is constantly evolving what it advises to do or how it behaves based on the data it receives over time.
Absolutely. Yes. That's what is a proper product management, I believe.
Yeah, I would agree. It's not always easy to do. Not every situation lends itself for it. But if you are sitting on top of a huge bucket of data, there's wonderful things you can do. And I say that from my own experiences as I'm developing together with my co-founder, Buddy Koi, developing a tool that is going to sit on a huge bucket of data as well. As soon as you realize how much data you have, you're almost obligated to then go, well, so what else can I do with this? This is what I had in mind. Wonderful. But how can I modulate this? Because I get intel now. Throw in an algorithm, a little bit of AI, and you can do predictive stuff and, all of those things. I like that's part of your core. This is our product. I usually see that as an afterthought. Like, oh yeah, we can also do this.
Yeah, that's a good thing actually, because, Omnisend is not the first business of our owners, and they did have failures before, so learn from that.
Yeah, good. The alternative is you never learn. That's horrible. Okay, so that's two things.
Yeah, that's two things. The third thing, recover lost sales.
Yeah.
Recover lost sales. There are several ways how to do that. Ultimately, you would want to invest into it because people come and go. I'm sorry to say, but your site is one of many sites.
I find my site actually quite unique, but okay, thanks.
I'm
kidding.
Are unique?
I'm kidding.
Yeah, but nowadays it's so easy to search in the internet. There are all kind of aggregate sites which provide you instantly comparison of prices from here, and there, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not even talking about Google or other search engines, but I mean, there are the whole sites dedicated to find better choices.
Yep.
So that means that you really need to consider, okay, so if a person visited my site, how can I help him or her to get back?
Mm-hmm.
So, and here, basically, again, you have major three choices. So, cart, people place something into the cart, they look like they're shopping around, right? What? That's first choice. Or maybe they're not putting things to carts, but they're looking at products, right? So you see that, okay, the product, the person engaged with this product and maybe another product which is a similar category or something, right? And finally, there's a checkout. Okay, so person places something to the cart and starts a checkout. So those are three major signals for you.
Yeah.
Guess which signal you should invest in if you can only invest into one.
I would guess the last one.
Which one?
Number 3. The getting people back to you, the lost sales, so to speak. I would assume that there's an intent already to, well, if we're at that stage, there has already been an intent to actually purchase in some way. So that one of the things to get over, sort of, is that you leave your, you start filling in your cart, but you just don't ever check out. And maybe that's because you're distracted or whatever, but I would guess that that's the most interesting one, but do correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so it's actually interesting because, yes, checkout is actually, if you can only invest in one thing, invest in getting people back to checkout.
Okay, so my guess was good. Good.
Also, you need to consider, even though it's tempting to go for the cart or product, but you will be sending a lot of trash mails.
Sure.
It's more complicated to send appropriate mail or SMS or push notification if you only have information about the cart. Well, first of all, if you don't have a contact of a person, any kind of it's just irrelevant.
Yep.
You cannot communicate to that person, right? But if you do, you still need to be cautious about it. It should not be intrusive communication, right? It should be gentle, relevant.
Yeah.
And this is what, again, this is not our opinion. This is what we see from numbers. Okay. And actually, for us in the beginning, it wasn't actually intuitive, even though, you can speculate about the intent, and I like your line of thoughts, but trust me, there are many other lines of thought which sound reasonable.
Yeah.
But then numbers don't lie.
Yeah. I was going to say, but then the data doesn't back it up. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh.
So if you can invest into one thing, invest in checkout. If you want to save your money, if you have a little bit bigger budget, then you should consider cart abandonment, and only then go for product. All right.
What does that mean? Only go for product?
Product? Okay. So someone engaged with the product.
Yeah.
You have a site, person is scrolling through the site, but doesn't put anything to the cart. No placements to the cart. But it's obvious from the behavior, he or she is interested in shoes, maybe hiking shoes.
Yeah.
Right. So then you can follow that up. Right.
Yeah.
But, again, if prioritizing and you want to be both effective and relevant, first checkout, then cart abandonment, basically people placing stuff to cart,
Yep.
and then doing nothing about it, and only then guesses about, oh, this is probably interesting for that specific person. That being said, there is also additional consideration. Which channel should I contact person through?
Yeah.
There are basically 3 proven good channels, right? So email, SMS, and push notification. So again, here numbers don't lie. People tend to avoid to send SMS.
Yeah, and
That's fear.
I can imagine that one because that feels the most intrusive.
And it is actually.
Yeah.
Now, what we do see from actual behavior, people send a lot of reasonable amount of emails.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people who prefer sending SMS. But the people who win the most are the ones who send decent amount of both.
Okay.
So, of course, you do need to invest in being relevant. That's absolutely a necessity. But then, if you do so, it's more important to send both.
So I get the name now, Omnisend. It's not just there's multiple things that we can do, but there's multiple things that we should do.
Yes, indeed.
Interesting.
And again, we maybe would like it to be otherwise, but the numbers don't lie.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that. So what you're essentially saying is, this is going to sound very negative, so I don't mean it negative. But you're essentially saying the data shows that if you're nagging a little bit more left and right, you'll get a better result.
That's true.
Interesting.
Again, think about it from person's life perspective.
Yeah.
I'm not always in front of the computer.
I guess, yeah. There's times that I sleep. I get it. Yeah. Look, I've been sitting behind a computer since, I can tell you exactly why, when, like almost the date. February 1st, 1996, that's when I got my broadband connection. There has not been a laptop beside me since that day.
All right.
Not kidding, but obviously the phone has replaced much of that as well.
Yeah, that's true. Still, different people have different preferences, and it's not about just nagging, but it's about being convenient as well.
Sure. Like I said, I know it's going to sound negative because I'm using a negative word. I understand that there's a positive intent when what it is that you're messaging about is actually in context. You are curious about it because you have looked into it. It makes total sense.
And this is actually why we have invested quite a lot in making plenty of possibilities how to set up when actually to send or when not to send an email. Okay, this is basically one of the core functionalities. So we try to segment shoppers based on their behavior.
Yep.
So, I mean, if the person has been active for the past day or so, well, it makes sense and it's not that intrusive to contact the person.
Right.
The person was not there for a week. I mean,
it's already a different story. Yeah.
It's probably not going to be nice anyhow.
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting. When you're explaining it like that, it makes total sense. So
this is why we create possibility to set up different workflows. We tend to use word automations. It might be a little bit too technical, the word.
Yeah. Well,
but actually it's like, in case this happens, don't send. If in case that happens, do send.
Yep.
Okay, send what? SMS, email, both? With what content? Do I want to apply a discount? Is it a first letter I'm sending that to that person?
So high configurability with smart figuring out what it is that actually makes sense. Okay. So here's an interesting question. At least in my head, it's an interesting one. Since you're gathering so much data, and you work with multiple platforms, I'm guessing Shopify being the largest.
As of
yeah, and WooCommerce a good second. So, do you see any difference in behavior from platform to platform?
From shopper's perspective, from technical perspective?
Any. I'm curious for any, because I know there are technical differences. And so I'm pretty sure there are differences there that might pop up on your radar. But I'm also curious about shoppers, like people who shop at WooCommerce stores. Do they behave differently for whatever reason? I can't think of any, but you're sitting on a big bucket of data. I'd imagine this be an interesting one that would pop up if there is a correlation like that. Okay, what can you say about that?
So there are not many major differences, actually. I wouldn't think of any major one, but you need to understand that there are some, but they're interconnected with technical capabilities.
Sure.
It's not everything that you can do in WordPress that you can do in Shopify, and vice versa, of course.
Do you have an example?
Yeah. For instance, in Shopify, your order, the way you can change it, it's not linear, but it's well defined. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, first you place an order, then it's pending for the payment, then it's paid, then it's fulfilled, and so on. Okay? In WooCommerce, it's not that strict, actually. Basically,
here's the flexibility again. Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Exactly. Unfortunately, that
never ends well if you start a sentence like that.
Yeah, the flexibility is great, but it doesn't create a clear understanding of what's going on.
Yeah.
Right? For instance, we have situations where the order was fulfilled and then goes back to placed state. Wow, what does that mean?
No clue.
No clue, exactly. So those additional capabilities, they create for us additional challenges, at least in this specific case.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
this is exactly what I'm curious about. So.
Yeah. So, and this is why I would say that we don't see major differences from shopper's perspective. The differences are more from if it's a big shop or a small shop, right? If it's from a specific industry or it's a general shop, so then you can see difference in behavior. But platform, not that much. Okay. If we would go to technical difficulties or challenges, there are of course more. For instance, one interesting thing. WordPress is highly decentralized, and that is great. Okay, that
it's also a choice we no longer have.
What do you mean by that? Interesting.
So by it being decentralized, that brings both positive and negative consequences. Some of the things I would say, if we were to have that centralized, it would probably help. So I sent out a post on X yesterday asking if there's one thing in WordPress you would like to change, what would it be? Now, if I ask a question like that, I know I'm going to get a lot of people being very negative about WordPress. But one of the things that I think would benefit WordPress is if we do a better systems architecture. So bring the code base as modern as possible, have dependency management, that sort of stuff, right? So because it is distributed, it's very tough to get everybody behind in the speed that you would like. If it was a centralized version of some part of it would be centralized. Like I'm guessing there'd be more push in that direction, if that makes sense. So it's more of if we can combine both worlds, we cannot. It would solve certain problems. If that makes any sense.
I mean, absolutely. Again, I don't like to look at things from negative perspective.
I agree.
Any kind of thing turns out, there's a reason for it.
And in the case of WordPress, the word is called backwards compatibility.
Oh,
yeah. Well, this is exactly what I'm referring to, right? So there's, I'm like, you have an ultra modern application, right? It's built from scratch. There's, I'm sure in 10 years, I think you're 10 years old or something like that. So in 10 years, you maybe have some technical debt here and there. Sure.
You think so?
Possibly. But
yes.
Yeah. So in a company like yours, I would imagine that there's a constant attempt at modernizing, meaning by modernizing, it just doesn't, you don't do it for the sake of doing it. You do it for the sake of improvement, right? Performance improvement, maintainability improvement, the global loading footprint, all those sort of things that are just becoming better once you start using newer technologies or newer versions of technologies. When you're a company of which you control the code base, if there is technical debt, still stuff that you built 10 years ago that's still in there, there's a very low chance of it because you can see the obvious gains by being modern. So in 2 or 3 years, you'll do a minor rewrite and, you'll focus on that sort of thing. WordPress has none of that. And that's a black and white position, but there is some. But WordPress doesn't have it in the way where you would want it. So we're closing in on the next PHP release, and we're still catering for very old versions of PHP. So that is a too big of a chasm between the two. So that means we're waiting for a very long time to find optimized versions of our software, and that's essentially what I mean.
Yeah, I hear you. Here we've been quite radical for the many years actually now. I can provide an example. I think it's not a secret.
Yeah. So if it is a secret, it's a good time to share.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for instance, we've had an integration with one of, let's say, major social media sites.
Yeah.
We have written that integration 3 times, and data showed us that it doesn't work to do. Okay. So after the first time we've written it many years ago, we threw it away. Second time we've written it from scratch again, we threw it again out. The third time we threw it again out, and we don't have it right now.
Okay.
So what I'm saying here, we do throw out code. If it's not needed, you need to get rid.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't. Maybe big companies have a luxury of having legacy code that, maybe will be capable to sell that future to someone. Oh, care for that. We throw it.
That's good. Legacy code is hard. So a few comments on the post I did on X were along the line of just we would love to see better systems architecture. And then the obvious answer still is yes, but we're having this problem. And there's two things. On the one hand, if we didn't have backwards compatibility the way we had, we wouldn't have grown the way we have. So what is it, 43% is what is being thrown around now? That's an incredibly high percentage. When I was starting to get invested into WordPress, which is end of 2005, early 2006, it was single digits. So from that perspective, the amount of growth that we've seen, certainly percentage-wise, is insane. To now say, look, we don't like where we are, that doesn't make a lot of sense, because there's a reason why we are where we are. And there's a reason that everything that comes with it now is where we are. So I get the mentality, I get the idea, especially from a pure development standpoint. There's a lot of stuff in WordPress that doesn't make a lot of sense. And that's fine, because if you want to, you can build your own auto-load dependency management system inside of WordPress. You can. You just need to spend time doing it and rejig a few things that are just, not something you do in a week. But if you wanted to, you can build the most modern solution inside of WordPress, and it'll work just fine. Will it be as optimized as you can possibly want it to be? No, of course not, because you're still depending on old stuff. But it can be fast, it can be performant, it can be flexible, it can be all of those things, and that's a conscious decision. So if you're building Omnisend to integrate with WooCommerce, WordPress, I'm assuming you're not sticking to the old reasons of why we need to have backwards compatibility version, 5.6, I don't even know what it is currently, 7, 7.1, 7.2, I don't care. If you're not building for 8.2, then in my mind, you're doing something wrong, or, at least from 8 and upwards, have a little bit of legacy, sure, but you build for the modern world. You don't build for the old world. And I think that's a mentality. I like that. I like hearing from you guys that there's a goal to not have old redundant stuff still lying around doing something. Again, Buddy and I are building Scanfully, and it is to fully integrate with WordPress, yes, and we have a plugin, yes. As modern as we can make it, we are. But every single code that we're using inside the application itself is whatever suits the business, right? Doesn't matter if that's Rust or Golang or just React or, it really doesn't matter. The end goal is what it's about, right? Solving solutions. Sorry, a long rant, but that's essentially how I look at the, we want to have modern code, but we also want to complain about a platform that we're using and building off of. Pick one, right? It's not going to be possible to always get your way. You can build it your own. You can use a CMS that is far more modern, sure, but then you lose a lot of market, and then you lose a lot of flexibility, and there's a whole array of stuff that you don't have. Sorry, I'm making the rant even longer, but. So what are the biggest challenges that you face when building with WordPress? Is it around these types of things?
Two things.
Two. That was quick.
For a long while before our conversation. If it would be possible that Webhooks would work really reliably and fast, that would be amazing.
Interesting.
Yeah, because this is one thing that we see different in WordPress as compared to other ecosystems. Like all the ecosystems have webhooks.
Yeah.
But because some ecosystems are centralized, there is a centralized body which makes sure the quality of those services is well maintained. So,
yep.
If something happens in the site, there is a service backend that will fire a hook. SLAs are going to be well maintained and so on. If you have custom host of WordPress with WooCommerce, it's obviously more difficult to establish any sort of quality baseline for those webhooks.
Sure.
And that is actually, in case of e-com, a challenge, because we need relevant data, timely data.
Reliable and relevant.
It's very sad when you should really not send communication to the client because he or she already bought the product, if you receive that notification too late, you cannot cancel that message because time is ticking. And you, I should send reminder.
Yeah.
But in fact, it's already finished.
Yeah,
you just don't know about it yet.
You're a little too late, buddy. Yep.
And it's very sad because it's a technical challenge. It's not a.
There are various components within WordPress that are interesting to approach from a reliability perspective. The same goes with cron. Cron works, but barely. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the hand gesture that goes with that. There are solutions out there that provide a better cron version for WordPress. Human may have a version. It's called Cavalcade, I think, but that requires something to be installed on server level as well. So that's not as easy to use. Not every host is willing to have anything installed. So my go-to advice is disable WordPress cron and rely on server cron. Simple. That's already tenfold better, if not more, in terms of pure reliability. Because that cron will run every single minute.
This is probably something that needs to be done by the owner of the site.
On the hosting platform, usually, yeah. Yeah, difficult. I know.
We cannot change it, unfortunately.
No, I know. I hear your pain.
But it's very, very good that a lot of your listeners are capable to do that because, they are one way or the other either owners of the sites or creators, at least, of the sites, so they can account for that. But I mean, for us makers of tools and plugins, it would be a big help. I mean, if those webhooks would fire timely and reliably, that would be awesome.
So what's the second thing?
The second thing is related to that compatibility thingy and multiple plugins installed at the same time and not always behaving well in respect to each other.
Yeah.
So that is all understandable. That is part of flexibility. But as a consequence, there is a behavior of people who are creating the sites. They have a portfolio of tools and plugins that they use.
Yeah.
And you set up a site, you build it, you ship it, you forget about it. Now, in many cases, you forget about because, the one who bought the site did not buy the support for the site.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, right, it's reasonable for you to forget about it. But what does that mean for us? That the plugin that was installed is never going to be updated. I mean, if the creator set the auto update, that's amazing. But people, in many cases, don't do that, and there are good reasons. You don't know what's going to happen after the auto update.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it will break the site. So
quite possible. Yeah.
Quite possible. Yeah. So and that means that what we see actually again from data, in many cases when we need to bring out new version of plugin, we have a challenge with people not updating that newest version. I don't really see a good way how to solve that actually. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to make that plugin as lean as possible so that there is less and less functionality in it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So basically, so there is less and less need for us to make a new version of it. If we want to make a new version, we make a new version of product, which is then connected.
Good one.
That's the second biggest challenge for us.
Yeah, I understand that one. The backwards compatibility and compatibility, both are historically always have been an issue. And you can build the most solid, well-tested version of a plugin that you can possibly think of in the most siloed way, right? So you're only doing everything in your namespace and public classes, private classes, everything perfectly done. and then somebody else just sort of just injects whatever they think is most convenient for them, and it meddles with your global variables and in ways that you couldn't conceive it was possible. But somebody not fully understanding, that's still a possibility. It's a risk. It's a risk at all. And yet we still love the project. We still love WordPress.
And I mean, again, it's a flexibility. There is a reason for it. And we understand that. I mean, good thing about Omnisend that there are a lot of senior people working here. I mean,
how many people are working?
Depends on what you're asking for. It's totality, the development. So it's a couple of 100 people in total.
Oh, wow.
Somewhat 100-ish in product and development. So people who are developing the product.
That's a lot larger than I thought. Nothing on your site says we're a couple of 100 folks big. Or maybe I missed a page.
I mean, probably this is not much important. It's much more important if the product is good. I mean,
so I two ways. There's that, and then the other way is like it's a signal of how well you're succeeding. So in a way, I guess.
Sense.
It actually says on your about page. I glossed by it. 200 plus team members. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for sharing your story, your challenges as somebody coming in from the outside world of WordPress and now fully jumping in. Thank you for being candid and sharing that with us. Thanks so much.
Just okay.
You're most welcome.